Let's be innovative. Let's challenge the norm. Let's raise the bar. Let's be the elite.
To be the best, one must beat the best. Ovals, road courses, the streets of iconic cities, race after race, the top sim racing IndyCar stars will battle it out. In sim racing, it doesn't get any better than this. This is their battleground, for the checkered flag, for the glory, for the right to say they are the best. The cars and stars of the Lionheart IndyCar Series, presented by Buttkicker, are ready to race.
It's been 1 month since the Woodman was able to kiss the bricks at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It was the time for many drivers to see if they can stake their claim for a triple crown. But now the true test to win the championship begins from this point on. Tonight, the top drivers in Lionheart Speedway Series look to show their forms of wizardry of speed at the Magic Mile. Tonight, this is New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and this is the HyperX New Hampshire 175. Hello everyone, and welcome to Race 11 of Season 2 of the Lionheart Speedway Series, presented by Motor Racing. Live on racespottv and ESTV. RaceSpot is glad to have you with us here tonight. Justin Prince, Andrew Cancelo with you, as tonight's action is brought to you by powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra comfortable cloud line of gaming headsets. Whenever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. Let's dive straight into our graphics esports countdown to green as we get ready to count down race 11 of this season, Andrew. So far, it's been an eventful campaign to say the very least, but now it's time to go flat short track racing for the Magic Mile.
Great to be back here today, Justin. As you say, almost a month since we were last here at Indianapolis for the second Triple Crown race of the season. But now, as you say, we're in earnest into this second half of the season, and this is where all the drivers who did that work in the first half really still with a shot at the championship, and some other drivers who sort of raced their way out of the championship, just trying to salvage something from their season. But right now, today, it's New Hampshire. Then in 3 weeks' time, Chicagoland, Motegi. We got a wide variety of ovals coming up over the next few weeks, and these drivers are going to have to be on their toes at each of them to score maximum points for the next few races.
Your schedule brought to you by Next Level Racing as these drivers get ready for New Hampshire. Of course, one of the final short tracks of the season, still Iowa, Richmond to come up in terms of those short tracks. Keep an eye on for the schedule. But the graphics esports driver standings are a major talking point entering tonight. Matt Taylor enters tonight with the championship points lead over Matt Wagner. Right now, Joe Branch, Andrew Wood, Trevor Malone amongst that top 5. Keep in mind, those points have fluctuated a lot as of late, with some of the struggles a few of the drivers had, to say the least, over the past couple weeks.
Struggles for a few, but certainly Andrew Wood was one who maximized everything that he could there at Indianapolis, and it's vaulted the rookie up into 4th in the championship standings here, and right back into the championship conversation as well. This is far from over for anyone in that top 6, top 7 area. Even Luis Gonzalez Nunez down in 8th still has a mathematical shot at this championship. But what we've seen so far this year, Justin, is we really haven't had anybody consistently getting the top points race after race, and I think someone's going to have to do that in this second half.
Let's take a look at the team standings brought to you by HyperX. Team Race for Sunset leads the point standings entering tonight, but Power Slide Motorsports has been sliding their way closer and closer in those standings. Horse Racing, Synergy Motorsports, Black Synergy Motorsports, the top 5. Keep an eye as well on Team Race vs. Arctic for amongst that top 6. Transcendent Motorsports, 40, simracing, Factory Backed, and Gibson Racing rounding out the top 10 entering this evening's action. That brings us over towards the rookie standings in turn, brought to you by buttkicker and Andrew Wood, the top rookie so far, after picking up that Triple Crown victory. But keep in mind, overall in the season, Shane Coogan has been keeping things tight, as well as Samuel Ryman up at the top of the rookie standings.
It's been a really solid season here from Shane Coogan, obviously with that win at Michigan, but beyond that, he's just been consistently doing the top 5, top 10 race after race. Wood has had a little bit more of an adventurous season, 2 wins, but also that penalty that came with that first win at Texas. So it's been an up and down season for Andrew Wood, and then Samuel Ryman, just Mr. Consistency, just nothing spectacular, 3 top 10s, but points scoring finishes race after race. 3 very different approaches to this rookie standings at the top here.
Let's take a look at the series details in detail, brought to you by GSI. Season 2 of tonight's Lionheart Speedway Series action, the second time in turn the Speedway Series has been here, but keep in mind, things have been different compared to the first season. Factory Back, we mentioned the defending team champions entering this season at the back end of the team championship. $6,930 in cash and prizes on the line throughout this campaign. Focus is on for the custom fixed setups for the Dallara DW12 for New Hampshire as a whole, Andrew, because these drivers are getting ready for their second trip in this series to this racetrack where it was so close just last year, as you'll see with your event details brought to you by Moza Racing.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of those tracks where you can get really, really close finishes, and nothing closer than last year where we were just 0.134 seconds, the margin between first and second. Matt Taylor winning over his teammate Chris Fowler there. But generally speaking, this is a place where you really want to qualify well. The pole sitter has been always traditionally done well. There have been very few drivers that have come from the back in order to win this race, but I am actually one of the drivers who have done that way back in season 5 of the Lionheart IndyCar series when they still ran the DW12, so that it can be done here. This is going to be a very interesting strategy race, I think, and it should be very entertaining to watch today here at New Hampshire.
Keep in mind, less than half the field should be expected to finish on the lead lap with how things played out. For reference, the most lead changes in series history at this racetrack for Lionheart competition, 11 back in that Season 5 race referred to. Now, less than 90 seconds until these drivers get themselves ready for qualifying. The magic mile, as it's described though, Andrew, can be one that's difficult to master when it comes to the Dallara DW12. You are the official setup builder for Lionheart competition. What will these drivers be facing here tonight?
Yeah, New Hampshire is a deceptively tricky oval here, Justin. You think that it looks fairly flat from what you see, almost a carbon copy of the Milwaukee Mile, but it's much more technical than the Milwaukee Mile, at least in my books, because you do have a little bit of progressive banking. It goes from 0 degrees right down at that first seam all the way up to 7 degrees right by the wall there. So that gives a number of different lines through the corner. The optimal line is actually not on the bottom of the track. It's almost midway up the corners, particularly in 3 and 4. You almost want to have 2 tires on the patch and 2 tires off the patch. So it really creates some varied lines, some varied approaches to the corner. And as you say, the setup is going to be very difficult for the drivers to master throughout the course of the run, because it does change a lot with the tires going off.
Remember, several times during last year's run, a few drivers actually got up towards the wall trying to hold off each other. Others bounced off of it. And you see a few others get fairly loose towards the bottom of the racetrack, trying to hold on to their grip. But the drivers are wrapping up their final practice session for tonight's action. Of note, Trevor Malone led all drivers in final practice with the 21.943. Jim Herrick, Andrew Wood, Scott Rankin, Matt Taylor top 5. But these drivers will have 5 minutes, so qualifying 2 laps to get themselves that critical track position to be able to qualify well here from New Hampshire Motor Speedway. 165 laps the distance once we get rolling at this 1.06 mile facility. Drivers are just about all set to go for qualifying, Andrew. How will you attack this track if you are one of your top championship competitors if you want to qualify well here tonight?
Yeah, so it's all about getting yourself set up for a good run here, and you really, it can be either on lap 1 or lap 2, but it's all about staying nice and high through 3 and 4 on your warm-up lap, and then really getting as much speed as you can down this front straightaway as we watch Matthew Short on his first lap here. And then you want to have a nice, good arc here. What you're trying to do is avoid scrubbing off as much speed as possible, but still allowing the car to go right out to that wall off of turn 2. And similarly, turn 3, you come in really nice arc, get the car as low as you dare without scrubbing too much speed, and let it go right back out to the wall. And this should be a nice lap here, therefore, Matthew Short with a 22.202.
22 flat coming in from Gary Gonzo so far, as well as Samuel Ryman. We'll see if Short picks it up on the second time around here. And keep in mind, a few drivers of note have EOLs for tonight. Creighton Carter, Matt Wagner, and AJ Musselman. Taking a look at Shane Coogan. This is expected to be a solid racetrack for the 29. In fact, he's top of the board after the first lap turn by him.
A really strong start there from Coogan. We see Branch here sitting and waiting for the pit stop in this, or for the to go off here. That's part of the strategy here, is there is a dynamic sky on in this series, so we do have some cloud cover here today, Justin. A fair bit of cloud cover, in fact, so if you time it right, you might just be able to get some advantageous conditions here in qualifying.
Part of the reason we see Joe Branch there sitting down in the pit lane is lots of fuel burning had taken place for a few of the cars before hitting the racetrack. Oster was amongst that club. See how the 9 fares out. This trying to set their first time. Jacob Oster, lap 1, 28.060. Well, that's a not close time to the 21.9 at the top of the board yet.
Yeah, that was, Oster was fuel burning on his lap 1. He basically threw away the lap 1 to try to maximize this lap 2. He was very low through turn 2 there on that first lap. Not quite so low there, and just a little bit of a lift there. I don't think that this is going to be quite as fast as Oster was hoping for.
18th position currently on the board, in fact, near the bottom of those who have set times so far. Amongst those yet to set times, Joe Branch coming onto the racetrack. Luis Gonzalez Nunez amongst those also on circuit. Matt Taylor also just getting rolling. So keeping an eye on Joe Branch. Power Slide Motorsports, we mentioned, trying to power slide forward in the team championship standings. How about Joe Branch power sliding his way towards Matt Wagner in the standings, though third entering tonight to the points?
Yeah, Joe's been having himself a very strong season here for Power Slide Motorsports, so he's still well within the thick of the championship fight. He's had a little bit of bad luck here in the last couple of races, though, so he's really, I think, looking to turn that around here today. And that starts with a good qualifying effort.
See where Branch lays out in qualifying 8 top 10s, 4 top 5s this season. The average starting position, 14.5. Last time out at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, had to come from 28th for a solid finish. So far in the 21.9s, looking strong so far for Branch. Will Branch be able to bump that up on lap 2 is the major question, nearly into the wall. There goes Branch to close it out. No improvement. The first lap seems to be the biggest of the 2 laps tonight.
Yeah, the car you can see just gives up a little bit in that turn 3, turn 4 area on that second lap, and that's what's causing so many issues. We saw it on board with Oster as well. And now I think we're getting a fairly good idea as Matt Taylor now goes to the top of the board, pipping Tyler Graff by 100th of a second there. We're getting a fairly solid idea of what this grid is going to look like here, Justin.
Jenkins, meanwhile, setting a solid lap time inside the top 10 for now with the 22 flat. Michael Goodman amongst the final drivers yet to take a time. We are drivers yet to take times. Carter and Wagner, who both have EOLs for tonight. Up the board goes Tony Schowen. Ricky Harden amongst the top 6 as well of note, as you've seen finishing up runs. Goodman trying to get a second lap to count, though. 21.887. Where did that come from after an invalidated first lap?
Wow, that was huge commitment there from Michael Goodman, particularly 3 and 4 on lap 2 there. He was all the way out to the wall on the exit, but he kept his foot in it, and he's made that payoff with the pole position here.
With that, it's time to get ready to look at your starting grid for tonight. 35 drivers have made their way to the Magic Mile. Only one can make it a HyperX victory lane. It's time to look at your starting lineup for tonight's action, the HyperX New Hampshire 175. And after an intense qualifying session, it's a 21.887 for Michael Goodman to set the pole over Matt Taylor, Tyler Graff, and Trevor Malone, the top 4. Tony Schowen and Gonzalo Munoz round out the top 6 for tonight. Those drivers just about 1/10 of a second back. Ricky Harden starts in 7th with Joe Branch in 8th. Nick DeGroot will start in 9th. Shane Coogan rounds up the top 10 with Paul Jenkins and Brian Beard amongst your top 12. Mike Rigney starts 13th, Luis Gonzalez Nunez in 14th. Big Joe Hassard starts in 15th with Andrew Wood coming off the victory at Indianapolis in 16th. Scott Rankin and Isaiah Dupree amongst the top 18. Behind them is Gary Godso and Craig Forsyth 19th and 20th. Avery Wood starts in 21st. Then is Jim Herrick in 22nd. Dakota DeMade starts 23rd alongside Samuel Ryman. 25th goes to James Watson with Ryan King in the 26th position. With Gavin Sanders and Jacob Oster, the top 28. Hugo Gallus and Matthew Short, 29th and 30th position. George Anzaldo starts 31st with Dean Mull 32nd, the last driver to set a time, Jeff Gion. And then it's Matt Wagner and Creighton Carter, who both have EOLs for tonight's action, riding from the back of the field. And as the drivers make their way to the pit lane for tonight's action, and from that mark, get ready to roll. Let's take a look at your featured onboard cameras for tonight's action. Amongst those featured onboard you'll see tonight, Hugo Gallus will be driving the Moser Racing onboard, redefining sim racing. Go further, go faster with Moser Racing. Visit moserracing.com. Then, with the Gomez Sim Industries on board tonight, the number 30 machine. That will be Gonzalo Munoz driving that machine. Makers of high-end esports equipment and controls, visit gomezsimindustries.com. Dean Mall, meanwhile, will have the NLR on board later tonight with the Take Your Racing to the Next Level machine. Visit nextlevelracing.com. Craig Forsyth, the HyperX on board. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers, and HyperX is always ready to game. We're almost set to go racing from New Hampshire Motor Speedway. It's Michael Goodman up at the front. Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart. And this is the start for the HyperX New Hampshire 175. Green flag is out. We're underway for the Magic Mile. A clean first lap for Michael Goodman to lead things off for the 165 up on the board. Meanwhile, though, behind them, as much of the top 5 single filed out, it's still side by side, about 6 or 7 on back, which could spar some things up. Paul Jenkins quickly went to that high side right off that jump, Andrew, though.
Yes, he did, and it was nearly 3 wide there with Tony Schowen and Nick DeGroot as well. So it was a little bit chaotic here in the back of the pack, but they're starting to sort themselves out now, starting to get into a little bit more of a rhythm here. But these first laps at a short track like this, always chaotic, Justin.
And as we've seen throughout the history in this event, especially last year, multiple groups expected to come into play to try and find that clean air. Unias Avanstos trying to utilize that second line for the moment, with Mike Rigney trying to use the third to second line here. Down and below those dotted lines for the third mark.
And Rigney is known as a little bit of a specialist on these shorter tracks. Oh, we got trouble here.
To the back straight away. And it's Hugo Galvez involved in the first caution of the night for Backfire Motorsports Indy. And this cool racetrack, with those conditions just seen, already has its first caution under the clouds here at New Hampshire. Take a look at this replay. Yeah, just looked like along the bumps.
Yeah, and the thing is, he was right on that transition between that second and first lane, and that first lane is basically flat, Justin. So if you put 2 tires on that first lane, it very easily will spin you out just because of the harsh transition there. So not the first time that we're going to see that today, and probably not the last either.
That's the thing a lot of people do not realize at times with this racetrack. Variable banking at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, 2 to 7 degrees with a 12% grade down through the corners. Keep in mind, the drivers tonight are already surpassing the real-world lap record for reference. Scott Dixon had that record from 2011 for reference in the IR05 and the 22.3s. That's how quick they're rolling today. They're surpassing the real-world record for this facility.
Yeah, of course, we never got to see the DW12 here at New Hampshire, and with this large wing package that it has, it really generates a whole lot of downforce, and that's what allows this car to really separate itself from some of the other Indy cars that have raced at this track, such as the IR05, and even if the current model, the IR18, came here, it doesn't have anywhere near the amount of downforce that this car generates at a short track.
Of note, drivers 25th on back, topping off during this caution flag period. The pit windows tonight project to be 44 to 47 laps. But of course, as we've seen, the draft is also a major part of those windows. How would you break down how you would pit tonight, with it being 165 laps tonight?
It really depends on track position, Justin, because it's going to be so important to keep yourself near the front of this race if you're the leader. So it's really painful to come down pit lane early on in the race, but it does give an advantage to the drivers in the back of the pack who are able to come down on some of these early cautions, top off, maybe get some new tires, and then that'll pay off way later on in this run.
Quickie caution this time here at New Hampshire. Track had a long-standing tradition of having longer cautions, but that has since been shortened since the last stop here at this facility, the Magic Mile. Coming to start off lap 8 this time by Goodman, Taylor, Graf, Malone, Hardin, the top 5. Munoz, Schowen, the top 7. Branch, Jenkins, Coogan, DeGroot, Rigney, the top 10. The restart zone they go. Goodman, a little bit off the wall, but off and away he goes with a good launch. And already Goodman picking up 0.6 of a second over the race battle behind them. Third is starting to pick up steam, Tyler Graf, with stellar track position to begin tonight in the 88 machine.
Yeah, Graf definitely looking strong here so far today. He's lost 1 position to Matt Taylor so far, but I like how Graf has been practicing so far this week, and he definitely seems strong. Meanwhile, Trevor Malone, he's another driver that has had a lot of bad luck here recently. He's definitely looking to turn things around here today, and he's got a strong beginning to this race.
Note one driver has lost the lead lap. Brian Beard pit during the green flag stint and has lost a lap. Here's Trevor Malone. And if you're amongst this pack, how do you strategize to get the passes done? Because this is a track known for being a rhythm circuit.
Yeah, you almost have to study the driver in front of you and see what they're doing, because everybody will approach the corners just a little bit differently. Some drivers will go in deeper, some drivers will stay up high a little bit more, arc the corner, and so you really have to pick and choose your battles and see what the car in front of you is doing, and then you have to figure out a way to make the corner differently than what they're doing.
What a start for Munoz, though. Still holding on to the top 6 early on, trying to battle with Tony Schauman a little bit, who's trying to build up speed. Munoz having ups and downs throughout this campaign, but amongst those, trying to hold on to that valuable positioning that we talked about. 39th in the points entering tonight in 7 starts. His best start before tonight was 10th. His best finish has been an 11th, and that was his first start at Homestead.
Yeah, this has definitely not been the campaign that Munoz was hoping for when he started the season, but that's just how racing goes sometimes, and all it takes is maybe a little bit of a break to refocus Munoz, and he's showing a lot of speed here. The trick will be for him is he needs to finish this race out and finish it strong, but right now he's attacking the 7 car of Ricky Harden right in front of him.
Ricky Harden also having his best starting position of the season. Previously was 8th at the Milwaukee Mile. Harden having some of his best runs, though, in the 1.5 miles at Homestead, Miami Speedway, Texas, Kentucky. Right now, trying to hold on to the short track with some of his best position early on. He's inside the top 5, point away from those drivers we just mentioned, Munoz, Schauman, and company.
And you can really see the drivers starting to spread out just a little bit through these corners. Schauman running that middle lane, but Branch dipping down almost towards that bottom lane there. And that's really what you're going to start seeing these drivers do, is now that they've gotten comfortable, now that they've got 15 laps under their belt, it's time to start experimenting. It's time to start figuring out where your car's good and what you need to do to get around the cars in front of you.
Once those trying to experiment, Scott Rankin darting around a little bit to find a way around Joe Hassard for 14th position. No run quite yet. Here's the thing. These drivers have nearly lost the pack, but the caution is up behind them. Gabe Wood and Isaiah Dupree around in turn 2 were under caution for the second time tonight.
And that was a big incident there in turn 2. One car all the way up into the fence, and that car for Gabe Wood is really crowding there. And you see going through turn 4, even Gabe Wood was really low on the track. So I think it's just a case of he gets a little bit too low here through turn 2. You can see him hook that bottom lane with that front left tire, and it just spins him right around, and then nowhere for Isaiah Dupree to go.
And our sim racing machine of Dupree sent nearly over to the edge of the fence and nearly out of the racetrack for a moment. Here's a look at Dupree. Nowhere to go.
Yeah, and again, you really have to treat that bottom lane as almost out of bounds. But we've got some pit strategy going on here up towards the front of this field. A number of drivers down pit lane, starting with Joe Branch, but a number of drivers also staying out. So this is going to shake up your running order towards the back half of your top 10.
Joe Branch, the first of those coming in. Paul Jenkins, Shane Coogan, Andrew Wood amongst the notables. Many of the drivers running towards the back, topping off indeed. So Michael Goodman, Matt Taylor, Tyler Graff, Trevor Malone, Ricky Harden still the top 5 though. But the race off the lane, this time by Branch. Coogan nearly getting his way around Paul Jenkins for the race for second. And that's going to make things a little bit interesting strategy, you'd have to think, because the main thing I noticed in terms of some of the markers, the furthest projections tonight was around to lap 141. If you were to go the furthest on the projected fuel windows, with it being 165 laps, we're talking about just about at that range to make it.
Yeah, you are. It's basically a 44 to 47 lap stint, but with some fuel saving, with some cautions, you can stretch that out to maybe even 50 laps. So we are definitely right in that window. It's right on the edge of the window, but we are right in that window of potentially making it on just a couple more stops here.
Getting ready for the restart coming up here. Lights are still on top of the iRacing pace car for now. It's worth noting you see the 88, a number change in fact for Tyler Graff. Notice at first the different look. We've seen him initially with the different numbers, switching to the 88 it appears for the rest of the campaign.
And I think that's probably just a little bit of superstition on Tyler's part. Wasn't having the luck that he was hoping for this season. It really hasn't gone Tyler Graff's way, and we know that he's a really strong oval driver, so I think it's just a case of new paint scheme, new number, new mentality, and hopefully he's hoping for better results, and so far, so good for that 88 car.
Reference to 98, driven by Dupree at the moment now. Once those, in terms of previous campaigns, always supporting the Dan Weldon Foundation as the paint scheme's also picking up different look for tonight. Some sponsorship. But these drivers getting ready for the restart coming up here. The top 13 all keeping the track position in terms of no pit stops so far. Then 3 others have stayed out initially as well a bit here. Would we initially mention amongst those in the pit lane, but is currently listed as a 14-lap stint. 14th, George Anzotto, and 15th, Gavin Sanders, 16th. And then you have the pit stops of Joe Branch and company.
Yeah, so those 3 came down on that first caution, but stayed out this caution. And then, so Branch is the first one on new tires. Wood and Branch and Wood, Anzaldo, and Sanders, 15 lap old tires, as you say.
So Michael Goodman has led them all so far, 19 out of 19. Can Goodman keep it up is the main question. He's been on the pole a few times this season. Just been a matter of keeping that lead to the very end. Goodman in the very early going, off and away.
Man, Goodman has been excellent on these restarts. He's really been able to get some gaps going here, and he's done it again with Taylor and Graff being left in the dust. But further back, there was a little bit of argy-bargy there with who was the... Munoz getting a little bit high there through that first couple of corners.
Munoz seemed to struggle a little bit through the gears, in fact, if anything. Bit of backfire for the thwarting machine. Trying to go through those gears has seen Munoz drop to 10th. Take a look and you can see just didn't go.
Yeah, you're right. It almost looked like he either couldn't find a gear or maybe he was in too high a gear for the restart, wasn't expecting it. But he just got swamped on that restart and he's down 5 positions there.
Take a listen and watch where it stalls.
Yeah, just seemingly couldn't find the shifter to get up into that third gear there. So it definitely, hopefully, is not a hardware problem for him on his end, but certainly something was going on with his shifting.
That shuffles things a little bit amongst the 6th place on back positions. Take a look at Trevor Malone, meanwhile. Looking to settle it out right in front of Ricky Hardin and company. A bit of a buffer building, but Tony Schowen looking a little bit dicey to the bottom. Schowen trying to clear for the top 5. Hardin not backing down to the outside.
And that's the difficulty of making these moves on the inside. You really have to be aggressive, particularly on corner exit. And if you're not, this can happen where the outside lane just maintains the momentum. Ricky Hardin successfully defends over Tony Schowen there.
That's the tough thing, trying to make these passes work here. See, for example, Mike Regney trying to size up Nick DeGroot in the heart of that dirty air, in that aero wash. Not been able to crack that equation quite yet. Gavin Sanders hasn't cracked the equation, though. He's making passes work underneath George Anzotto, although that was a little tight.
That was just barely clear for Gavin Sanders there, but that's sort of what you have to do. You have to take that clear when you get it and take advantage of it. And now Anzaldo's falling into the clutches of Joe Branch, who is again the first car of all the drivers who came down pit road this second caution here. So far, at least, we haven't seen the fresh tires really making a lot of headway, but this could be the first domino to fall in that strategy.
Here comes the next domino. Joe Branch, and a big car and upside down. Up the middle of the straightaway is Scott Rankin. Into him goes Matt Wagner, with implications building. It's Rankin to the inside while we're under caution.
That was a massive impact, and it just looked like 2 cars into one on the exit of 4 there. and that was Rankin, and I believe it might have been Andrew Wood as well involved in that. Jim Herrick right in front. You can see Wood trying to take that bottom away. Look, goes up the track. Rankin, oh, there was a little bit of air between himself and the pink and black car there, and then Wagner just nowhere to go, and hopefully it's nothing more than a wing change for your championship leader.
Yeah, not what you expect during the middle of the straightaway. Here's a look once again. That's King behind.
Yeah, and King did nothing wrong there, to be clear. Rankin was already in trouble getting as high as he was, and then the air contact between them just exacerbated the whole situation there. So definitely just one of those things, and an unfortunate end to Scott Rankin's race here.
And you have things get interesting with the strategy in turn, because almost everybody has pit except for a couple. Goodman stayed out, Taylor did not. In fact, most of the top 5 pitting this time.
Yeah, this is a really interesting call from Goodman, Chow, and DeGroot, Nunez, and Munoz, because you're basically looking at no more than 20 laps before you have to come down, and you will lose at least 1 lap, if not 2 laps here on pit lane. So this is a tough call for me from the leader of the race, but like you hate having to lose all the track position that you've gained, but at the same time, this is going to be very difficult for it to work. They're going to have a caution come out just at the right time.
Tony Shalwin, Nick DeGroot, Luis Gonzalez Nunez, Gonzalo Munoz all staying out with Goodman for reference. Of note, Gavin Sanders amongst the only ones who pit during the first caution to stay out. Joe Branch and company, most of those drivers staying out. Matt Taylor back to 18th. And this is what we've seen throughout the season and throughout the Speedway Series. Short track action takes a lot of strategy to make things work right.
Absolutely, and the thing with short track racing is it's often the case where you'll have a whole bunch of green or a whole bunch of yellow flags early, but then just at a certain point you'll get a long green flag run out of it, and you never know when that's about to come. And if it does happen here for these leaders, they could be in deep, deep trouble if they get caught in that danger zone.
Gonna be the interesting thing amongst this. Among the wing changes, just George Anzoldo, interestingly enough. So just getting away with that, it appears, may have been Wagner. Matt Wagner, remember, with the EOL, is up to 12th with his strategy call. So he's amongst those who topped off during the second caution of the race.
Yeah, he didn't come back down this time by, so he must feel like his wing was okay from that contact there. But it's definitely interesting that he chose to stay out here and not take advantage of the caution.
Very interesting indeed. As the 1-to-go signal is given, it's Goodman up at the front, followed by Shalwin, DeGroot, Nunez, Munoz. Then it's Sanders, Branch, Coogan, Jenkins, and Forsyth. Ryman and Godso topping off this time around. Goodman doing what he did at the Milwaukee Miles so far, controlling the tempo of this race.
Yeah, we've seen this at the Milwaukee Mile, as you say, and the thing is, what we haven't seen is how he reacts to traffic, and in no more than 20 laps time, I think that we're going to have our answer whether this is the case of Goodman needing that fresh air to keep up his pace, or whether this is truly whether he is the class of the field here today.
Buddy getting set for the restart. Goodman so far this season has been one of your top qualifiers in the campaign, currently 13th in the points. Tonight picking up pole number 5. He continues to dictate the pace, coming to the green. We're back underway. And Goodman already picking up a decent bumper over Tony Shalwin and company as they make their way to the back straightaway. And here's the tough thing to consider when it comes to Goodman in this. As the caution comes out, it's for 24th on back, and Zondo, Jacob Oster around down the back straightaway, a couple others coming out of it as well.
And this is probably the worst case scenario for Goodman and company, because they're just slowly burning through the fuel, and it's getting less and less time for them to get a gap here. But This is Jacob Oster coming through turn 1. George Anzaldo on the fresh tires, trying to stick a nose in. I don't know if that move was on there. If I was George, I think Oster was trying to keep it out of the wall on the cold tires, and he just Anzaldo just drifted up just too much on that corner exit there.
Take a look on board. This is Matthew Short.
Excellent job there from Matthew Short avoiding that wreck. It was a case of there's a car in front of me, oh, there's another car in front of me, oh, there's another car in front of me. And sometimes the best thing to do in those scenarios is what Short did, was just slow down as much as you possibly can and just pick your way through there slowly. Even if you lose a couple of positions, you still live to fight another day.
Brendan Carter having to get a wing change, as well as Anzaldo and Oster coming to the pit lane this time by with the yellow. But the statistic was going to mention when it comes to Goodman in that situation up at the front real quickly. Every time he started the pole, he's had some bad luck, Andrew. His best finish as the pole sitter for a race, 15th. That's all the way back at Atlanta. The last time he started the pole at the Brickyard, he finished 26th after being an early contender.
Yeah, certainly he hasn't been able to convert those good starting positions into a race finish yet, and some of those have been bad luck, as you say, but some of them it's just been bad strategy or incidents of his own making as well. So he's really got to find a way to close this thing out, and as I said, I just don't think that this caution is really helping him at this point.
So right now, these drivers getting themselves sorted. Luis Gonzalez Nunez amongst these inside the top 5 at the moment. For Luis Gonzalez Nunez, we've talked a lot about the praise. Remember the Milwaukee Mile for Nunez amongst this top 5. Nunez was also amongst the contenders at that racetrack.
Yes, he was, and a number of these drivers that we see up front, in fact, have shown their short track prowess, but we also have some drivers back in the field, such as your Matt Taylor and your Tyler Graff and your Trevor Malones, that are in the back through pit strategy. So definitely it's a little bit of a mixed up field that we got going on here, and it's going to make things very interesting on this restart.
Coming up towards the end of these pace laps in the next moment or so. Also keeping the intrigue on for those who are on those various calls. It's going to need to be a careful drive you have to consider for drivers like Taylor and Graff, knowing what we just seen for drivers in the heart of the pack.
Yeah, and you can see that, like, especially at the beginning of a stint, there's a lot of desperation to try and make moves happen while the tires are still good. They still have all the grip that's available to them. So it does create sort of that danger zone effect for the drivers in that midfield, and it really puts drivers like Taylor and Graff in jeopardy here.
Again, your top 5 still on track without a pit stop. Then Sanders pitting during the first caution. Branch all the way back to Dean Mall pitting during the second caution. Everybody else pit during the third caution or fourth caution. Gonzo and Galvez topped off this time around. 31 cars still on the lead lap. Goodman continuing to lead here at New Hampshire, with the pit window expected to open in the near future. Green flag is back out. Goodman continues to lead. Already a few drivers taking some different lines and different peaks. Back some side-by-side newly building up. Joe Branch under attack by Shane Coogan. The pressure starting to build up for those on the different strategies.
It absolutely is, Justin. And the top 5, top 6 here, they really need a good long green flag run here. They need to be able to get a little bit of a gap going on all the cars behind them. Meanwhile, you've got drivers like Joe Branch on these fresher tires. Need to make some moves happen here. Shane Coogan just got around Branch on that restart, and Paul Jenkins really putting the pressure on the 28 car as well. So these drivers here are starting to get desperate as well. They're on 21 lap stints, so they need to start thinking about when they're going to be pitting as well.
First on that stint strategy, keep in mind now, is Coogan for the time being. Although Branch wants that honor back likely. Not able to get a run quite yet using the second line. Just above those dotted hash marks, 125 laps to go already. And the tough thing too is, this all playing out. Remember, Taylor back in 16th, still boxed in behind Dean Mall on the fresher tires. For worth mentioning here, there is Taylor.
Yeah, just nowhere for Matt Taylor and Tyler Graff and Trevor Malone. Nowhere for them to go here. It's really tough when you get this far back in the field because you have so much aero wash in front of you. Almost every line is taken. There's very little clean air. So right now it's just sort of a waiting game for these drivers, seeing what opens up as the run goes on here. But basically everyone on track, I think at this point, they're just really hoping for a nice long run here to sort of spread things out just a little bit and to get some heat in these tires and see what happens over the course of a full stint.
Take a look at Shane Coogan, still trying to find a way around Munoz, or at least close up that gap. Munoz, the first up for grabs of those who have to come down in the next few laps or so in regards to fuel strategy. Coogan doing a solid job defending, and we've seen Coogan do well in the midst of some of the traffic, improving as talked about during the pre-race. As the season's gone on, he gained 4 spots in the standings last time out at Indy.
Yeah, he did. He's really been coming on strong here towards this start of the second half of the season, but Joe Branch definitely not letting him get away with this. He is trying to make that inside work, and Branch has been sort of stubbornly on that inside lane throughout the course of this race, trying to make that line work where not a lot of drivers are trying to go down that low. They're more staying in that third, fourth lane, but Joe Branch, one of the ones trying to make that inside work.
Here comes the cloud. And now the question too is, how will the clouds impact things? The cooler the track in theory, the more grip and the quicker you go. Is that a good or bad thing though, with the speeds already seeing them above 170 miles an hour down the straights?
I think it's only a good thing for racing because it just gives you more grip, particularly if you're like Joe Branch where you like being on the low line around here. It allows that line to come in just that little bit more. You have that little bit of grip. We got some spin. That's Sanders.
And just like that, Sanders to the inside wall. We're under caution.
Oh, and Sanders had such a good run going in that top 5 there, but he lost it in the middle of turn 4 there. Just got a little too high, a little too loose, and around it went. And Joe Branch nearly got collected on that front straightaway as Sanders came off the wall there. But yeah, you can see he just gets a little bit loose. Oh, and maybe just a little bit of contact with Gonzalo Munoz there. Sanders nearly saves it, but backs it into the inside wall there. Jenkins was another one who nearly got caught up in that as well.
Nearly into the side pod of Coogan there. Here's a look at Jenkins.
Really tight stuff through there. Joe Branch did an excellent job avoiding that spinning car, and hopefully Sanders doesn't have too much damage. Hopefully it's just a rear wing and not serious suspension damage, but just unfortunate way to get the race going for the number 5 car there.
Of note, Sanders does have mandatory repairs with the meatball flag in the sim. As pit stop time, majority of the drivers coming in, including those who needed to come in the next couple laps either way. Joe Branch, the first of those who stay out this window. So again, the strategies flip upside down, but this now means those leading the pack have to pit in about 20 laps yet again. James Watson of note amongst those.
And interesting to note, Justin, no matter which strategy we're talking about here, it's a Powerslide Motorsports driver who is leading it.
So strategy coming into play here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Lap 49 of 165. More coverage coming up here on RaceSpot.tv and ESTV. You're watching coverage of the HyperX New Hampshire 175 for the Lionheart Speedway Series, presented by Moser Racing for the Magic Mile.
Buttkicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Buttkicker, the future is feeling.
Welcome back to tonight's coverage of the Lionheart Speedway Series for the Magic Mile, New Hampshire Motor Speedway here on iRacing, racespottv and ESTV. The strategy roulette has seen Joe Branch come out on top for now, over Matt Wagner, James Watson, and Dean Moll. Matt Taylor in fifth. Restart underway with 114 laps to go. The drivers who just pit are about 13th on back, and we're already under caution because they're stacking up down the front straightaway. And
looks like
another big
Munoz.
one. Yes, indeed, you're right. Munoz upside down. Paul Jenkins involved. That didn't take too long.
And Shane Coogan was also, I think, part of this. You can see that the drivers just got a little bit stacked up there. Then Munoz tried to block, and Coogan goes underneath him and then just clips the back of that red, white, and blue car of Gonzalo Munoz, and that's wadded up a lot of cars there. Craig Forsyth got a piece of that as well.
Forsyth, in fact, hit right at the top of the car. Ryan King decides to go full throttle through it and avoids everyone somehow. You don't expect it at the start. On the bright side for Ryan King, it's the one time it's worked out.
Now, probably not the smartest thing to do when you see this amount of smoke in front of you, but just barely gets through there, but fortunately it was not bigger than it could have been.
And watch the slow motion. It looks like at first he may have been tapped from behind, then has to cut to the left here. You only have maybe half a second at most to even think if this is possible.
And that is just inches between himself and the car of Matthew Short there. And he also got very close to Sam Ryman as well. So fortunate that that incident wasn't bigger than it could have been through there. But yeah, it's going to be an unfortunate end to Gonzalo Munoz's day once again here, Justin. Just not a good day for him. But you know whose day is going really well right now, who didn't seem like it at the start with his EOL penalty? That championship leading car of Matt Wagner in second position.
Yeah, this is huge when it comes to if this works out. Question if. Remember, has to pit in about 13 laps or so, depending on how the pace laps fare out. But this is how you bounce back from an EOL penalty. To say the very least, Wagner, a one-time race winner this season, trying to close in on Taylor in that points lead, which was, at one point, 37 points for reference back at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Ford Wagner, I should say, as the leader.
Yeah, for sure, Wagner, the roulette has so far worked out in his favor, but now we're getting into the territory where it's the same sort of dilemma that we saw with Goodman and Shawan earlier, where when do you come in if you're Branch or Wagner? You have to come down pit road soon, surely.
The cautions breeding caution so far. Already at 5+ on the evening, coming to 110 laps to go, expecting the restart box coming up next time around. This could be big for a few others who need some solid runs. And how about James Watson? We haven't talked too much about him this season. This is, if it works out for Watson in this roulette later on in the race, could be a momentum changer for someone who, again, is not usually an open wheel specialist in that 93.
Yeah, really strong day for Watson here. He's been doing a good job just staying nice and clean. Same with the car in 4th position, the 23 of Dean Mall, just quietly going about his business. And he's in between, or those two drivers are in between Matt Taylor and Matt Wagner, which are two very strong drivers. So they've been acquitting themselves really well, and it's just a matter of now completing the rest of the 100-odd laps of this race to go.
Of note, Shane Coogan has a black flag from that incident from the sim. So the 29 has to serve a penalty here under green. So this could be a race destroyer for Coogan if this doesn't play out well coming to this restart. Coogan trying to peel off. Joe Branch trying to lead the pack. Green flag is out, back underway. And a bit of a bottleneck third on back. Dean Mall moving up to the third line for now. Matt Taylor second line. The battle going on for fourth.
Oh, and Tony Schowen had a big moment happening as well on that restart, and he's gotten railroaded by Nick DeGroot and a couple of other drivers. But right now, the action that you see on the screen is Matt Taylor versus Dean Mall. And again, Taylor with about 20 lap or 15 lap fresher tires compared to Dean Mall, so that's got to be very close. Here you see Coogan emerging 1 lap down from pit lane after serving that penalty.
Coogan indeed in 28th position, joining Brian Beard laps down in this race. Meanwhile, Munoz near contact, rather Nunez trying to battle it out with Jenkins and company, or rather trying to battle it out with the purple machine of Hasser.
Yeah, that was a very close moment there between Nunez and Hasser, two very aggressive drivers, both of them not really willing to give an inch, but creates a tight moment there. Meanwhile, we have the factory back teammates, that's DeGroot and Oster, really close together on this track as well. DeGroot has really marched forward after the since this restart. He's up 4 positions since the green flag came back out.
Jim Herrick, meanwhile, trying to hold off George Anzotto, who is coming back from a couple different rear wing changes in this race. It's been an eventful day for the boss man.
It absolutely has. This has not been the quiet day that Anzalo was hoping for, but back at the front we have Matt Taylor versus James Watson here, and Taylor, you can just see again, there is a distinct tire advantage. He's gotten around Dean Mall, and now he's working on Watson, and if he's able to get clear of that day glow green and yellow car, then he's going to be right on the back of Wagner and Branch for the lead.
Watson able to hold firm on the defense. That did lose him a lot of ground, though, nearly a full second behind Branch and Wagner. By the way, speaking of Wagner, he's the closest to anyone for the race lead, have noticed, throughout the day. In fact, Wagner trying to build up a run on Branch, not able to do anything with it yet.
Yeah, he's been able to keep right behind the Powerside Motorsports driver, a Branch in front, but the thing is, all of those drivers at the front, but especially Branch and Wagner and Watson, they're going to have to come down pit lane very soon. They're on lap 45 or 46 of their stint. So in the next 5 or so laps, look for those drivers to be down on the pit lane.
Take a look at Tyler Graff currently trying to hold things off, meanwhile, over Trevor Malone. And Tyler Graff, in amongst all this, is having his best run of the season, I think you can argue, when it comes to his performance here today. You mentioned about the superstition to the number. It's been playing out well so far for him. Speaking of a driver with an 8 in their number as well, Matt Taylor for Graphics LC Madworks, trying to make it work on the inside of Watson, nearly into Watson's side.
Yeah, it's so tough to keep the car pinned down on the exit of those corners and still keep up your momentum. And Watson's doing a real good job of just running that nice high line, keeping up his momentum on the high side, and it's just not allowing Taylor to get clear come the exit of the corner.
That's the tough thing when it comes to New Hampshire Motor Speedway. We've talked about trying to make those moves. Yeah, we're only making one so far since the restart. It's important to note that the drivers he's battling with still have to come in. The next driver on his strategy is Tyler Graff, and then after Ranch Wagner, Watson, and Moore come in, Taylor has to think about his pit stop coming up. Graff has to think about that. That's going to be the different part of this rotation here. If anything, Nick DeGroot is in the net lead for those who can go the furthest up at the front in terms of track position.
Yeah, and those moves that DeGroot made on the restart, so important now. He was able to leapfrog Shao and leapfrog Goodman and leapfrog Nunez on that start, and even has gotten past his teammate Jacob Oster. And so he's really put himself in a good position here if we stay green. But that is a big if, as we've seen so far.
Taylor trying to find a way to get around Watson. Watson still not making it easy. Now it's a four-car choo-choo train. Dean Moore forced to the outside. Tyler Graff trying to run inside. Again, near squeeze for Taylor. And this is going to get interesting how this breaks down. Watson starting to have to lift hard coming into the entries, but has that pull on the banking.
Yeah, it's all about the exits for Watson. He's just doing enough to ensure that he gets the rotation in the center of the corner. And he's able to get back to throttle early enough to keep getting the run down the straight. And that's where you make all of your time here at New Hampshire, is in a straight line. So,
caution.
Oh, we have a caution just in time for Branch and Wagner.
And it's Hugo Gallis once more at the back of the field, and another driver starts to turtle around the racetrack. We're under yellow.
It is not... Oh, go ahead.
Was about to say this was in the battle for 25th.
Yeah, that's Gary Godso right behind Hugo Gallis there. And again, that was an aggressive turn-in from Hugo Gallis. But it was also pretty late lunge there from the number 2 of Gary Godso. So tough call on that one. But it's definitely been a very bad day here for the Backfire Motorsports drivers.
Take a look at the team race first. Arctic Machine in, yep.
It was a late look, I will say that, for Hugo Gallis. It was a late look from the number 2 of Gary Godso, but at the same time, that was a very aggressive turn-in for someone with a driver that close to them, that close to the rear of their car.
A vast majority of the pack coming into the pit lane this time. Nick DeGroot, Michael Goodman, Luis Gonzalez, Nunes Montel staying out. And this window now gets very intriguing. 94 to go. The window's coming into clearer focus right now compared to what it was before. As a matter of fact, it might be the 1-stop window now we might be looking at compared to the 2-stop window for those staying out here.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to just how much more caution we get in this race. We were starting to get a decent run going there, but we don't seem to be able to get a good long green flag run going here. But as you say, we're right on the edge of that window that'll see one more stop from here. But it will be a little bit of a fuel save for everyone who came down pit lane here. But I do think that the right call would have been to come down and top off fuel regardless of where you were there.
So Nick DeGroot now is the race leader in all this. And now it's the matter of, again, if you were in the cockpit, Andrew, would you trust the fuel or trust the field in terms of how it plays out to going green or not going green?
I'm always a driver that can try and manufacture as much fuel as possible through driver input. So I would be one of those drivers who came down pit lane and try and stretch it as much as you possibly can and do one stop from here, because I definitely think it's obtainable.
Keep in mind for Nick DeGroot, this season only 6 starts entering tonight, 1 top 5 all the way back at Atlanta. DeGroot has good speed when you give him good positioning, remember. We've seen. Of course, keeps a busy schedule with his real-world work commitments, covering motorsports action as a reporter. And that's the tough balance, Andrew, for him this season, too. He's essentially been the leader for Factory Back this year, as the veteran for the series.
Yeah, yes, he has, and it's been a very different campaign for Factory Back compared to last year. It's been a much tougher campaign. They just haven't been able to get any momentum going. When one driver does well, the other two don't seem to be having the same amount of success. So it's just been a tough campaign overall for the Factory Back drivers. But Gary Godso and a few others just coming down pit lane here, topping off on fuel, and I think this is a really good move because this will get them just that little bit closer. Even if you're a half gallon short, that's still a lap or two at the end. So that this could be the difference here for some of these drivers coming down and topping off.
So the editor for motorsport.com leads the pack over Michael Goodman, Luis Gonzalez Nunez, Tony Schowen, Dakota DeMade, Andrew Wood, and Ryan King, who all stayed out here this caution. Everybody else on the lead lap topped off at least once. Green flag is out, back underway, and Goodman doesn't go! Goodman's upside down! Goodman wrecks in front of the whole field as we're under caution.
Oh, and the curse of starting on pole for Michael Goodman continues here today, Justin. Yeah, Goodman just didn't go. There's no two ways about it. He just didn't go, and Luis Gonzalez Nunez tried to go, and the end result is a wrecked number 99 Powerslide Motorsports car.
How many times can you have the pole curse strike? Nunez getting the back end of Goodman. No one else hits Goodman, but the 99's race likely done.
Yeah, and it's a minor miracle that no one else got collected in that, but Nunez, he was just anticipating. I mean, Goodman does go, he's just not going as fast as everyone else, so I don't know whether he was maybe in the wrong gear there, but Luis Gonzalez Nunez, he needs to be a little bit more heads up than that, and he needs to be able to get around the car in front of him or get off the gas there, I think, if I'm being fair, because at the end of the day, there was one car that got turned by the car directly behind him.
And here's the thing too, because Nunez passed to the left there, Nunez has a black flag currently in sim. And remember, Wagner, or rather, the last car we've seen in that similar situation, also had to serve the black flag as a result of contact such as that being Shane Coogan in that case. So Nunez, likely a penalty under green that he'll have to serve here.
Yeah, he'll have to pull off when they come back to green, which is going to ruin the 14 cars day as well, and that really cuts down the number of drivers on this alternate strategy here. And I will say it's also helping every driver who came down pit lane on the last caution as well just get a little bit closer to obtaining the fuel number necessary to make it on one more stop.
We're approaching halfway. Nunez already dropped in the back to make sure he can serve the penalty. We're getting to the point where, to say the least, some of the drivers towards the back are driving with very crumpled up race parts. Remember Craig Forsyth was involved in some of the troubles earlier? He's currently amongst those having to make another wing change. As well as Gary Godso from the checkup from that situation.
And of course, that's the danger of being in the back in a situation like that, is not only are you avoiding the car that had the incident, you're also avoiding all of your fellow competitors, so it can be very, very difficult to be able to see what's going on 30 plus cars in front of you. So it's just been from bad to worse for Forsyth here today, and your championship competitor is definitely not having a very good day.
On the bright side, Forsyth still in the lead lap. So there's that. Coogan and Beard are still a lap down in all this and haven't had any chance to get that lap back yet. Track conditions, meanwhile, it's down to a race low 91 degrees Fahrenheit. The most quality skies, I've seen that fluctuate a little bit. Most of the night it had stayed around 94, but not so much now.
Yeah, you're starting to see, because we've gotten on in the race and we've taken a little bit longer with all the cautions, so you're going to see it get a little bit colder than I think these drivers have really anticipated and really experienced in practice so far. So it's going to be interesting to see how they react, what happens with these cars. Will it free up a little bit? Will it allow a little bit more side-by-side action? I think there could definitely be some more action created from these cooler temperatures.
caution period this time. 1 to go signal already. As Gonzalez Nunez coming in once more during this caution. Samuel Ryman also topping off. So with 86 to go, we'll try this again. We come up to the halfway point. HyperX New Hampshire 175. Boy, has it been a magical time for some. And not so much for others. Green flag is out, coming up on the stand. Off and away goes the group. We're back underway. And this time we make it to turn 1. The rest of the drivers try and ferret out to the bottom for some of those cases.
And talking about drivers who have had magical runs so far, look at who's in 3rd and 4th right now through all of this chaos. Dakota DeMade and Andrew Wood have somehow found their way all the way up into this podium position. Of course, they will have to make at least 2 more stops where we're speculating that everyone else will only have to do 1 here. But at least for now, it's been a very good restart and really good race for them. But you see Luis Gonzalez-Nunez coming off a pit lane after serving the penalty under green, and that will put him 1 lap down. So he is with Shane Coogan and Brian Beard 1 lap down now.
Keep in mind, Coogan is in the midst of this top 5 pack at the moment. In fact, he's lined up in front of Andrew Wood. So that's the highest up any driver lap down has been. Dakota DeMade has a buffer car in turn because of that caution period and how things are broken out. Matt Taylor and company, meanwhile, they still have to find a way around Matt Wagner.
Yeah, and Coogan is allowed to do that. So basically in iracing, you have the lead lap cars pit the first time by and the lap down cars pit the next time by. But if the lap cars chooses to stay out, then they can legitimately be up there and they can try and race their way back onto the lead lap, which is what Shane Coogan is trying to do now. Key for Coogan, though, is he cannot impede any lead lap cars. So if the lead lap cars start to pressure him, he will have to start giving way and stop fighting quite so hard for to get his lap back.
81 laps to go, just past the halfway point here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Keep in mind, DeGroot's still your leader at this point in the midst of things, and the patience game starting to really come into play. As we've talked about with this rotation of the strategies, what's going through your mind as a driver right now, knowing it's gone back and forth, you never know how it may play out. And then you're in the case of the next car in front of Taylor, Matt Wagner. You get the EOLs, you end up coming to the pack, you end up trying to stay out, it works out, guess what? You gain points on your championship rival.
Yeah, it's one of those roller coaster style races if you're in the cockpit. You never know whether you're quite on the right strategy here until it all shakes out. But I will say that if you're Joe Branch, if you're Matt Wagner, if you're Matt Taylor, you have to be really happy with where you're at in terms of strategy, in terms of fuel, and in terms of stops remaining, because I think that those 3 right now are your leading candidates for winning this race when it all comes out at the end, just where they are on the fuel numbers. And it doesn't surprise me given how high they are in the championship standings as well.
Owen on board with Ricky Harden meanwhile. And Harden's amongst those where the strategies have not played out. Remember, Harden was top 5 in the early going of this race. Then the caution started to fly, and now the 7 machine is marked back in traffic again.
And as you say, that's all really down to strategy. Oh, as we have a moment on the front straightaway there.
And another crash with George Anzaldo.
Jim Herrick as well.
And George Anzaldo's night continues to be anything but majestic.
Yeah, so you're going to see Herrick is going to try to go around the outside of George Anzaldo. Anzaldo just doesn't quite give him enough space. They touch just coming out of 4, and then that puts Herrick into the wall, and George Anzaldo spinning down the front straightaway.
Eric's significant damage there to the front wing and the side pods. So another 2-car incident and another caution to make things intriguing. Oh, and it's right in time for the top 3 to need to pit.
Yeah, and if you're in the top 3, you have to come down here. You can't have only a 10-lap stint here.
Cautions, precautions, precautions. And somebody did not tell that to Nick DeGroot for the pit stop. DeGroot stays out. Everybody else on his strategy window came in.
No, Wood stays out as well.
Wood, though, has an extra 5 laps he can go further than DeGroot.
Yeah, but I would classify them as basically in the same strategy window here, Justin. They still have to make at least one more stop after this one. So this is really dicey stuff here from Wood and DeGroot. I don't like this call from them. I just don't think that this is going to come good for them.
Quickly approaching double-digit cautions for those trying to keep track at home with whatever calculator you may be using, whether paper or digital. Man, oh man, has it been a wild night here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, to say the very least. And you never know what can happen when it comes to short track racing, right?
Absolutely, and there's just not been a lot of give and take out there with some of the drivers, and it really has been only a handful of drivers that we've seen sort of repeatedly being involved in these incidents. And for the vast majority of the drivers, they've been really well behaved, but it's just a couple of drivers out there just haven't got the memo on leaving enough space here.
Just out of curiosity, is there a Lionheart record for how many wing changes you make in a race?
I do not believe that is one of the stats that we track, but I think we should going forward.
George Zotto's in a position where he will, for the second time, have to change the front and rear wing for reference this race. And that's what he's doing right now. He's already changed the front. It takes 24 seconds overall once you change the rear. And this time off and away goes Zotto. Keep in mind, we've seen Forsyth have to change a couple front wings. Carter's had to change a front wing. Those wings, well, there's a lot of them being bippity-boppity-booped in the middle of the parts department for tonight.
Yeah, fortunately, these drivers don't have to pay for crash damage because some of them would have a huge bill after replacing all of the wings throughout the course of this race. But it's definitely been an interesting race, and one thing that I do want to draw your attention to is look who's the car second in line here. Notice I didn't say second place because second in line, Shane Coogan. He is one car away from getting around and getting his lap back the old-fashioned way.
I was about to mention that. That's the big thing, too, with DeGroot staying out. Coogan doesn't get the lap back here. So how do you play this out if you're Coogan to get around DeGroot, if anything, especially knowing the next 2 cars behind you are pitting soon, but you yourself have to pit another few laps after that?
Yeah, if you're Coogan, you have to go as fast as you can here and try and get around the old-fashioned way and try and make the pass happen on the track. It's so much more valuable to be in front when the caution flies because it's fairly certain at this point that we're going to get at least one more caution.
Let's try this once more. 72 laps to go. It's been eventful so far. Green flag is out, back underway, clean for the start. No stack-ups this time. Few drivers are darting around to the inside, but most drivers get around cleanly. James Watson already under attack by Trevor Malone, though, in the heart of the pack.
You can see these drivers are no less desperate now, and some of these drivers in the middle of this pack are even more desperate than they were before. And you got some very aggressive drivers here, Dean Mall, Ricky Harden, and you got a car that blinked out. I think that was Trevor Malone, your championship contender.
See if Trevor Malone returns. It's not a good spot for Malone to be somewhere else than the racetrack. Graff, meanwhile, trying to find his way to the bottom. Bit loose, not able to find the rotation.
And the connection doesn't look good here for Trevor Malone. That will be a huge blow in his championship hopes. I don't think that he's going to be coming back here, at least in the next couple of laps. So that's just devastating for his championship.
Big arrow wash for a moment and tight grip for Tyler Graff. Nearly up into Watson for a moment, having to slip back in the line. Coming to 68 to go this upcoming time by. Malone appears to be out now. We're down at 21 on the lead lap for the time being. 7 seconds separating them. Or should I say 22, since as that's gone on, Coogan made the pass on DeGroot.
Yeah, and that was so important for Coogan to get around DeGroot there, and that is going to allow, if another caution does come out, he is going to be on the lead lap, and more importantly, he's going to be able to pit on the next caution and get back on strategy. So very, very important move for Coogan if he has any shot at getting back in this field.
So Coogan at the tail end of the lead lap, needing a caution flag. Ricky Harden back inside the top 10 meanwhile. Looking to size up Dean Moore currently. Right behind is Mike Rigney as well. What an eventful night for Harden though, up and down the pylon.
Yeah, up and down as you say, and right now he's looking to keep going forward. He has been moving steadily upwards since the strategy calls have put him back in the pack. So he's definitely a driver I've had my eye on today. But Dean Mall, what more can we say about this driver here? He's had just a really, really solid run. Really hasn't put a foot wrong so far in a race that has been nothing short of chaos.
Still sizing things up on James Watson is, well, several drivers at the moment. Give credit to Watson. He's made this strategy work. This is the highest up in track position he's been through most of the season. And he's been able to maintain it compared to some of the other tracks this season.
Yes, he has. And when DeGroot and Wood come into the pit lane, you're going to find Watson well within your top 5 as well. So that's going to be a great result for Watson if he can keep it going for the next just over 60 laps.
Watson Racing setups machine trying to run away from the rest of this pack still. There is that 93 in particular. So far running 22 5s and has been able to make that third line work. Seemed to prefer that groove more than anything else. A few drivers trying the second. He's been glued to that third line, just the third only.
Yeah, and I think it's just a case where that's where he's really comfortable, is running that higher line. It keeps him out of the aero wash, the cars in front of him, and it just allows him to keep the momentum up. And we've seen him defend his position time and time again by just using the momentum of that high side. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
We've had enough caution periods where Nick DeGroot is still on the track, by the way, with Andrew Wood. When do they come in is the huge question mark. No signal yet for the 89 or the 64 with the amount of pace laps. This is a lot further than we were projecting for tonight.
And I will say DeGroot is saving a bunch of fuel by running right behind Watson here. Coogan, but we got, and this might just be the caution.
Ryan King trying to turn it around. Here come the leaders. Able to get up to speed, though, just in time. We stay green.
That was very lucky for DeGroot and Wood because they would have had to come down pit lane. No two ways about it there. But it was just, again, Ryan King just got a little bit low through turn 2, clipped the bottom lane there, and it just spun the car right around.
So King back to 21st, a lap down. Second to last driver on the lead lap, should rather say. Coogan still the tail end of that. Speaking of the championship implications, here comes Taylor with a crack at Wagner.
And this is going to be very important that Taylor gets the move done on Wagner, but Wagner is also trying to make a move on Joe Branch. And because Branch loves that low line, it's allowing them to spread out through the corners, and it's creating some dicey situations on corner exit here. So it's definitely a battle to watch.
That running up towards the top groove still for Taylor. And it seems like he's trying to pull off the peel-the-wall method more than anything because it's been so difficult to get the bottom to work tonight.
Yeah, it really has. About the only driver I've seen really work that bottom has been Joe Branch, and he's been able to make it work where other drivers haven't. And that could honestly be the advantage that Branch needs come the end of this race.
What line will Taylor choose? He chooses top. Wagner chose top as well, though. There's the aero wash. Pit stop's coming up. Nick DeGroot has just indicated on the radio he plans to come in. So pit stops for the first time under green all night. DeGroot coming in with Coogan, in fact, as Coogan nearly gets hit.
And that was not ideal for Nick DeGroot there to be pitting behind the car in front of him, of Coogan, because it really checked him up on that pit entry, and it's going to cost him maybe even almost as much as a second on that pit entry.
So both of them roll into their pit stalls here under green. Andrew Wood now the race leader. Ryan Keane is already fallen right into the clutches of the race leaders for now, but look who's right there. Joe Branch, Matt Wagner, Matt Taylor battling for the net lead. See behind them, Watson trying to hold off Mull, nearly getting hit.
And Graf has gotten around James Watson here, so Watson will shuffle up to 5th place once Wood comes down pit lane, probably in the next 3 or 4 laps. But the battle for what will be the race lead is between Branch, Wagner, and Taylor, and they have been going at each other as we've seen on camera here. Looks like Wood down this time by.
There's the indication, yep. That's the signal, the universal signal. Moving down the middle of the back straightaway, coming in. So up to the lead comes Branch. Into the stalls goes Wood. 4-car battle for the lead. Here comes Taylor to the inside for second with the slider. Nearly gets it.
That was a brave move there from Matt Taylor. He'd been so married to that high line, and now he's trying the low line out for the first time, and he's really making it work. Looks like he's going to get around Matt Wagner here.
So Matt Taylor up to second once more. Only one more car to battle with for the race lead. These drivers all expected to pit soon, coming to 50 laps to go. It will be tight on the margins. Behind them, Tyler Graf looking to have another fight for the battle for the top 3 to the inside for 3rd position. Not able to roll it down there yet.
Yeah, Graf saw those 3 championship contenders in front of him, and he said, hey, I want in on this action. I might not be in the championship anymore, but I still want to race here. And he's showing a lot of speed here, and he's attacking the points leader really hard right now. Meanwhile, Joe Branch trying to go inside of some lap traffic. That's Ryan Eric King, who had that spin earlier.
Oh, and the traffic not making it quite as easy, staying top. Taylor wanted to run top in that corner. There goes the traffic this time, giving a little bit of space for the leader at least. Not as much for Taylor to clear, just about. As that box is in Wagner. There goes Graf for the pass.
Yeah, really, really dicey situation there, and just an unfortunate incident for Matt Wagner being boxed in as he is. And luckily, James Watson seems to be letting Wagner go in there. Oh, Matt Taylor with the move.
Made it easy on the roll. Matt Taylor for the first time to the race lead over Joe Branch.
Yeah, that was just, he got the run off of turn 4 coming down the front straightaway here, and then chucks it over down onto the inside, and just that was probably the best move that we've seen all race there, Justin, because he had that move done by the middle of turn 1. Oh, Watson around!
Rigney around as well. We're back under caution. Several try and check up hard as several drivers try to avoid the hard contact out of turn 2. Luis Gonzalez Nunez also involved.
What a shame for James Watson here. He was right in the middle of that pack with Ryan Eric King as they were trying to negotiate it, and I think Watson just gets a little bit low, and we've seen this story before. He hits that apron, and then unfortunately nowhere to go. Big impact there from Luis Gonzalez Nunez.
So Nunez's night likely done from that major hit. How did Nunez get in that spot? We'll take a look from the Team Sim Race 24/7's look.
Yeah, just unfortunately the seas parted and there was a car right stopped in front of him. Just nothing Luis Gonzalez Nunez could do there.
So back under caution as a result of that crash. And this one gets us to the end on gas. So now just about everybody coming in except for Gary Gonzo, who we've seen top off several times during yellows.
Yeah, this is disaster for Nick DeGroot and Andrew Wood because the rest of the people hadn't started their cycle at pit stops yet, so they're going to be trapped one lap down along with Shane Coogan. and they're going to have to make the lap up here and not come down, not get service again. So really, really unfortunate timing for the caution for DeGroot and Wood.
Some of them are taking the wave around here since most of the leaders have pitted and they are in front of Godso currently.
Yeah, but when you take the wave around, you aren't able to take any service in order to get that wave around. So that is that is the major problem for DeGroot and Wood, is they still will have to have another pit stop more likely than not. Wood is right on the edge of being able to make it, but even then he's going to have to fuel save at the back of the field. So that basically puts paid to their strategy.
I know this race is bringing up the thoughts of Remember the 18. Are we heading to that point, as Andrew Wood, mind you, is behind Godso?
Oh, and Gary Godso stayed out, so this is just disaster for Andrew Wood. So even if he can make it on fuel now, he's going to be one lap down. So Gary Godso staying out here, this has basically ruined Andrew Wood's race.
Question is, does Godso stay out coming to the one to go signal is the major thing, remember. He did get the lead lap, Godso did, for the first time tonight. I know that answer in a moment, but he is indicating he will come into pits, so there's Andrew Wood in that position to be able to get around Godso. So there goes that part of the equation.
And that'll be a massive sigh of relief for Andrew Wood, because he really would have been absolutely screwed if Godso wasn't coming in this time by. So that massive relief there for Andrew Wood.
That was the major thought, as we mentioned, with the top-offs. Godso can make it to the end now on the gas with this top-off. Wave arounds coming up for a majority of those drivers in that queue. Amongst them, Kane, Beard, DeGroot, and Wood. Shane Coogan is still a lap down. However, because Coogan had also, remember, pit during the green flag stops in this race. So it's Taylor, Branch, Graf, Wagner, and Moll now the top 5 with 43 coming to 42 laps to go here. And how things have changed throughout the night. Taylor leading his first laps of the evening prior to the caution. Now your points leader entering tonight, looking to try and get victory 4, but still a ways from that. He has to hold off Branch. He has to hold off Graf and Wagner with 42 to go. Most drivers expecting to make it to the end from here. We're backing away.
Tyler Graf immediately attacking the back of Joe Branch, but Graf makes a mistake, almost gets onto that apron, had a big wiggle in the middle of turn 2, and that's going to allow Matt Wagner to attack Tyler Graf again. So all that work Graf did might just be for naught here.
Oh, and near contact. A little bit of air between them for the moment. Seen a little bit of bobbling. Graf now trying to hold on to the outside. Wagner trying to attempt the slide. Wagner pushes up the track. Can't make it work. Here comes Mo with the cross.
And that's the danger of trying to make a brave move like that, is you can fall back into the clutches of the car right behind you, and that's exactly what's happened with Matt Wagner here, and this is going to allow Tyler Graf to reestablish himself in that third position, and Wagner is going to have to sit back here and sort of collect himself and really try to find a place to get back onto the podium.
Same we said from Wall. How about Joe Hasser, the next car back? You also have Ricky Harden back to where he started this race in the conversation. And Harden's amongst those really making that line work. He's running at the moment in the 7.
And don't look now, but Tony Showen's also right behind them. That's Jeff Hysong in between the two of them, but they've been steadily working themselves back up through this field. Of course, Showen and DeMade were on that strategy that they got off of before DeGroot and Wood did. And that's allowed them to stay in touch with this top 10 and potentially have this top 10 finish at the end of the day. But it's been a long, slow slog for them to slowly make their way through this field.
And a roulette once more when it comes to positioning. Speaking of roulettes, Tyler Graf trying to hold off Wagner still. Wagner still cannot find a way around. Graf had to use the bottom to defend that time.
Tyler Graf's being really defensive here. He's trying to make that bottom side work, just like he's seen Joe Branch do throughout the course of this race. So I think it's really the case of Wagner's got to find a way to make that outside sort of wrap around, get a run like we saw Matt Taylor get on Joe Branch earlier. That's how this is going to work out for that number 3 car.
Keep in mind, the aero wash is coming in big with the double aero coming demo almost. I've noticed a couple times that 23 in the backdrop has nearly hit the wall coming out of turn 4 3 times in the past 5 laps trying to follow these two.
Yeah,
that time a little bit lower.
And it's hard to describe just how difficult it is to get back to the throttle at a place like New Hampshire, because you're basically getting back to the throttle in the middle of turn 4 right at the apex, and then just hoping that your car sticks by the time you get to the exit and you're approaching the wall, and you're really judging it by millimeters, almost 100 yards before you actually get to the point where you're trying to get to. So it's a very difficult skill to nail that lap after lap after lap.
Keep on mentioning Ricky Harden throughout the night, of course, and your thoughts on how he's done this evening, because he's been hard on the wall a few times this season. Pun yes, indeed, intended.
It's been a really impressive drive from Ricky Harden. He's been one of the drivers who's been able to slowly make his way forward, and he's one of the few drivers who seem to be able to make those passes. He's aggressive enough as he gets very high coming off the tube. Probably realized that we were talking about him there. But he's been very impressive, and he's making moves, more importantly. But it's these drivers in the back that are starting to get desperate. We talked about the disastrous day that Craig Forsyth has had, and here's Andrew Wood trying to make this long strategy work, and we'll have to see whether he has enough fuel to make it to the end without having another stop here.
Forsyth amongst those who can make it on fuel, mind you. And what's that panic like, knowing you're on the better strategy, but you're still getting zipped around by those who are on that strategy where you still need to pit? How do you try and keep that composure, knowing if it goes green, they still have to come in, but if there's a caution, those spots are going to be hard to make up for you?
Yeah, I think if you're Forsyth, you're just sort of resigned to this not being your day. You probably have some damage residually to your suspension from some of the incidents you've been in, so it's just one of those damage mitigation days where you're not looking to necessarily be competitive. You're just trying to bring your car home in one piece, and it's a tough mental space to be in. But I've been in those situations, and it's these types of runs where you minimize your losses that can really come back to you at the end of the season, as we see it really close between Mike Rigney and Creighton Carter through 3 and 4 there.
Near contact a couple times down the straightaway and then into turn 3. Rigney this time working with Sam Crow in the box. And that spotter assistance may come critical to be able to know how tight you can be in terms of those lines, to say the very least, with 28 laps to go.
Yeah, you have to be able to run with so much respect to be able to get that close through the corner, and you really have to respect the driver that you're running with in order to do it. You see them giving each other a little bit more space through turns 1 and 2 here this time through, but Rigney definitely looks like he's got a car to get around Creighton. It's a question of, does he have enough time, and can he set it up properly in order to get the run? Because as we've seen, the run is very important to getting the job done.
Taking a look at Gary Godso meanwhile. Remember, Godso's had to change the wings a couple times tonight in that 2 machine. Still looking at a solid run here if he can hold on. Top 14 currently for the 2 car.
And that's Nick DeGroot knocking on the door behind him as well. DeGroot, we're not sure whether he can make it on fuel. He pitted just a little bit sooner than Andrew Wood, but as you say, it's one of those things where at a race like this, when there's so much chaos, so much attrition, you just need to find a way to persevere through it, and that's what Gary Godso has done here in this race.
We're nearly up into the wall, in fact, there with the aero wash in turn. Still able to avoid the contact, 25th position currently. Or 25 to go, I should say, on the track. You know what is 1.25 miles is Taylor over Branch. Then you have Graf and Wagner there, losing time in bunches with the way they're faring out here.
Yeah, with Graf going as defensive as he is, they're just not able to really generate any forward progress towards that number 28 car, Joe Branch. But right now, it's Matt Taylor who's just checked out on the rest of these drivers. He's not just was it leading, but he's pulling away from Branch here. So barring anything major happening, I think this is Taylor's race to lose here.
Beard has indicated he'll have to come in this time. Ryan King has already pit. Beard amongst those who took the wave around to get back on the lead lap. King also was in that conversation, so keep that in mind. Beard is in. So the wave around drivers already starting to migrate their way in a couple cases to the pit lane. 22 laps to go. So now it's going to be the major thing. How do you close up that gap in the clean air to get up to Matt?
It's a real tough thing, and it doesn't appear that we're getting very close to proper traffic, so you can't really hope to rely on that. So you just have to be very sure of your lines. Try and run a line that Taylor isn't running, and use the draft on the straightaways as much as you possibly can. But it's really tough on a short track like this as the run goes on. You just don't have the tires left to stay with the leader, and there's not a lot that you can do if you're Joe Branch.
20 laps to go from New Hampshire Motor Speedway. HyperX New Hampshire 175 has been an eventful one for those tuning in. Caution flags in the double digits. How things have played out tonight. Tony Shallen trying to battle with Dakota DeMade. Remember, DeMade was amongst the top 5 at one point. With the strategies now trying to hold on to the top 10. Try and peel his way up to 9th position. Jeff Hyson also in this pack.
Yeah, it's been an up and down day for Shallen. He was doing so well earlier on, just got on a different strategy, and then the strategy just didn't work out for him. But he's done well to mitigate his losses and mitigate his damages, and he's going to come away with a nice top 10 finish as long as nothing happens in these final 18 laps.
Riding along for the time being seems to be the game plan for some of these drivers here. How things are playing out. And that's the major thing when you have the caution totals. Sometimes you get it to where you get these long runs once things settle down and down for the drivers mentally, you have to think.
Yeah, and this is a very difficult spot for a number of these drivers because they've been so used to having these shorter runs that finally having to manage the car over the long run now seems a little bit foreign to them, and it's tough that it happens right at the end of the race. So I think there are a lot of drivers who are relearning on the fly what these cars need towards the end of the run.
Looking back at Tyler Graff still, this will be something Tyler Graff really looks back at and is happy about how things have played out, and you'd have to think, because for Graff, would be a stellar finish for that 88, a new number. Even if he falls back to 4th here in this, it'd be one of his best runs in Lionheart overall this year.
Yeah, but certainly Matt Wagner definitely wants that podium position to keep his championship role going here, but right now it definitely looks like Graff has the ability to keep Wagner at bay. Just every move that Wagner makes, he's just not able to complete the move before the corner exit, and Graff just has the answer and is able to keep him at bay. So it's been a really solid debut for the 88 car of Tyler Graff here today. The new number, as you say, working a treat.
2 seconds back of your race leader, coming to 13 laps to go. And what can you say? Matt Taylor going to Matt Taylor, right? It's been that type of a year. Last year he came so close for this championship in the series. This season he's turned it up a notch, looking for victory 4 out of 11.
Yeah, if there's one driver you don't want to see get into the lead late on in a race, it's got to be Matt Taylor, because he just becomes automatic. He just is so smooth when he's out on his own. He doesn't make any mistakes. Some drivers can get nervous. Some drivers can start running lines that they weren't running because suddenly they're in clean air and they're not sure what to do. Matt Taylor, he knows exactly what to do, and he's closing out this race really strong.
Graff is building up a buffer now over Wagner, no team. More losing touch to both of them. Joe Branch trying to pull away from both of them as well in the midst of things. Coming to 10 laps to go from New Hampshire. expecting the pit stop soon for those who took the waiver route after green flag pit stops to Group, Wood, and company. Expected to be in that conversation. And remember, they needed a caution and bad to make sure they can get to the end. So far, the highest they've been able to get is about 15th on the racetrack.
It's tough if you're Nick DeGroot being on the old tires and have to worry about fuel and then trying to pick your way through the field. So it's an almost impossible position to be in. And I think Wood can make it. I don't think DeGroot can. I think that you're going to see him have to top up probably about 2 gallons of fuel here.
That becomes the case. That likely drops DeGroot to at least 19th, if not 20th. Looking on board with Dark Horse Racing's Matt.
Oh, we have a big wreck on the front straightaway.
It's in 11th, it's Crichton Carter, and it was in that side-by-side battling with Mike Rigney that's popped up off and on. And this makes things interesting for the end. This sets up a restart with under 5 laps to go.
This changes everything here, Justin. You can see Rigney with the run down the back straightaway. Just comes up the track. Carter, oh, there was a lot of air there. That was neither their faults. It was the iRacing prediction code just predicted wrong in that case, unfortunately. And the really unfortunate part of this whole thing is that this now changes the entire complexion of the finish of this race for your leaders. Where Matt Taylor was just walking away, now he's suddenly going to have to defend here from several very hungry drivers. And the real question here, Justin, is do you come in for tires if you're in amongst the leaders of this race?
Well, the answer looks to be no. Although a couple drivers have thought about it at the back, it looks like most drivers, if anything, will not take the fresher tires here for the final restart of the race, except for Craig Forsyth and George Anzaldo. This does help DeGroot and Wood, who did not come in there.
I'm surprised that DeGroot and Wood didn't come in here, because if you're lower than the top 10, in my books, you should have been coming in. Even if it's only a 3-lap sprint to the end, you really can make a lot of positions on fresh tires here.
Is there going to be enough time here, though, for Branch, Graff, anybody to build up the run on Taylor? Taylor had built up a lot of distance, to say the least, after the last restart.
Yeah, that's a great question, Justin. And the thing that we've seen here today is that first gear, it seems to be pretty long for these drivers, and second place just hasn't been able to get a good restart. If Joe Branch can somehow anticipate what Matt Taylor is doing, get a good restart, then there is a chance that he can get alongside Matt Taylor. But it's going to be very important. The restart is going to be so important, and we'll know basically within the first quarter or two whether or not Joe Branch has a chance at Matt Taylor.
In mind, the best finish when it comes to Branch entering tonight, second place, and that was back at Homestead in Season 1. He's never won in the series. Taylor, he's been dominant in this series this season. And don't forget Tyler Graff in the 88, looking to jump into the 88 and splash into HyperX victory lane amongst your top contenders.
As I say, a lot of hungry drivers right behind Matt Taylor, because you can't count out Matt Wagner either. Your championship leader is your championship leader because he has been aggressive. He has made moves here throughout the course of this season. So in my mind, probably Taylor should have this, but you never know with racing. And that's why you always have to go 100% right to the very drop of the checkered flag.
Back in the one-to-go signal. How about green-white checker time? Natural green-white checkered, specifically. Or should I say, yes. 3 to go is the right count. So green, green, white checker is the better way to put it, to close things out here.
Well, we are also past the point of no return, so if we get a caution on either of the first 2 laps, that will end it as well. So basically, if you're Matt Taylor, you have to do everything possible to enter the white flag lap or to defend these next 2 laps, and then all bets are off for that final lap.
Next flag ends the race, essentially. So it's Taylor, Branch, Graf, Wagner, and Moll, your top 5. For Hassert, Harden, Hyson, Shawan, and Demain. The Magic Mile has had some wild moments tonight. Matt Taylor looking to try and hold on. Green flag is out, 3 to go from New Hampshire.
The strong start from Taylor, but not as strong as we've seen here. Joe Branch might just have a chance to stay in this draft and draft behind Taylor into the final set of corners here. But Graf not on the back of Joe Branch, so right now I think it's a 2-horse race, Taylor and Branch.
Will Branch get enough time to close up, though? 2 laps to go, 3/10 the distance.
And that fresh air just working so well for Taylor out in the lead there. You saw Branch, he lost 0.2 of a second just through turns 1 and 2 alone. So I think this is Matt Taylor's race to lose here.
White flag waving from Barney. Final time around for the Magic Mile. Strategy has been the name of the game throughout the night, but only one driver could take the checker. Battle for third is on with Wagner up the track. Tower Craft holding on towards the final corner. But for that final corner, for the HyperX New Hampshire 175, Matt Taylor holds on. Matt Taylor picks up win 4 of the season here at New Hampshire.
And what a performance it was from that 8 car of Matt Taylor. He really took authority on this race. Was the only driver who was really able to pass on track for the lead of the race. And he got around Joe Branch and never looked back. Great race for Matt Taylor and great finish for your podium there.
So the HyperX New Hampshire 175 goes the way of Matt Taylor. And Tyler Graf already looking to congratulate your race winner. New car, new number. How about that? It is win number 40 with GLC as well for Matt Taylor this season and for his career. How about that for the man who calls himself hero on the car?
Definitely a hero drive from Matt Taylor here today. Just, again, really solid drive. Did everything that he needed to do. Got the strategy right. And that was the one thing that is probably the hardest thing about this race, was getting that strategy right. Matt Taylor definitely was one of the drivers who did.
So Matt Taylor continuing to celebrate. Let's take a look at your unofficial race results for tonight. Those brought to you by SimRace 24/7. As now, Matt Taylor picking up another victory on the trot. It's his 4th in 11 races. Joe Branch picks up a second once more, with Tyler Graf picking up a 1-3 for their group. Matt Wagner finishes in 14, Moll in 5th. Joe Hassert, Ricky Harden, Jeff Hyson, Tony Shaw, and Dakota Demain, your top 10. 11th spot tonight. Right behind them went the way of Samuel Lyman. Gary Gonso comes up to 12, trying to keep things clean. After being close on the strategies, Nick DeGroot and Andrew Wood finished 13th and 14th. Matthew Short, Craig Forsyth, 15th and 16th. Pit stop for George Inzotto, pulling that to 17th at the end. Brian Beard and Shane Coogan 1 lap down apiece, with Ryan King 2 laps down in 20th. 21st spot tonight goes to Creighton Carter and Mike Rigney. Behind them were involved in the caution that brought out the final restart. James Watson involved with trouble with Luis Gonzalez Nunez, 47 down, 23rd, 24th. Trevor Malone in 25th, Jim Herrick, Michael Goodman, Jacob Oster, Hugo Galvez, Gonzalo Munoz. Your top 30, a bad day for Backfire Motorsports Indy. Then 31st spot right behind is Paul Jenkins with Gavin Sanders in 32nd. Scott Rankin upside down to start the night in terms of flipping in 33rd. Gabe Wood and Isaiah Dupree, your 35 starters here from New Hampshire Motor Speedway. With that brings us into tonight's post-race coverage, brought to you by HyperX, as the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the luxury ultra-comfortable line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows for all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. It's already time to head to HyperX Victory Lane, where Matt Taylor does it again. Win for the season, going his way. What a campaign it's been for your points leader, to say the very least here, Andrew. The intensity level's been high. It's his first victory since Nashville. He's won at Kentucky. And oh, by the way, the last mile circuit was also a victory for Taylor.
Yeah, this is exactly the type of race that Matt Taylor needed, and it's going to definitely have a positive impact on that championship run for him.
Here is Matt Taylor from HyperX Victory Lane. And Matt, how about that? Your fourth victory of the season. Not sure if it's the way you've drew it up, but you pick up the W with 47 laps led. How are you feeling?
I'm a little wore out. That was tough. These short track races can get really tricky with, you get these cautions in these odd intervals, and you kind of got to pick a strategy. And from there on out, you either got to stick with it and hope it works for you, or you kind of end up on the back foot. And really, I wasn't sure how that was going to play out, because Wagner and Branch and a couple of those guys, they're a little bit offset on strategy, put them in better track position. And really just had to stay patient and see if it would come to me or not.
Was it well to say, how difficult was it to try and set up some of the moves, especially that move on Branch, to be able to try and get what turned out to be the race-winning move?
Yeah, it was really hard to set up passes, and the key was just kind of staying on top of the tires. I was doing a ton of studying. I was watching Branch and Wagner both, watching their lines, seeing if they were maybe working the tires harder. And I saw them both kind of start to back up just a little bit, and my tires were still good, and went on the attack and was able to sneak by both of them. And once I was around Branch and that strategy kind of fell to us where we needed to, it was really just about using my pace and pulling away.
So on that note, a big milestone for you in terms of the team side, Graphics LC, MadWorks you work with, it's your 40th career victory with GLC. How does that feel, knowing how far you've come with GLC?
That's pretty cool. I had no idea. We just partnered up, due to our team issues earlier this season. That's pretty cool, and I'd certainly hope to add a few more to that by the end of the season.
Well, congratulations, Matt, on the victory tonight. It's your fourth of the season.
Thank you, Justin. Appreciate it.
Matt Taylor picks up win 4 for Graphics LC MadWorks tonight. Second spot tonight goes to Joe Branch. Joe, so close. Your previous best, second at Homestead. You come second again tonight. How are you feeling?
Oh, that was all I had. I had nothing for Matt, so happy to bring it home in second, get a good points race. Um, and yeah, I mean, I feel like I maximized the strategy, I had good pace the whole time. A lot of time, there wasn't a lot of tire fall off. Usually that tire fall off is my advantage, and there wasn't much there. So yeah, felt good.
What did you need to do in turn to be able to try and keep up with Matt? What could he have done, rather?
I was hoping we would find traffic and that would mix things up, but we just never really got there with the cautions. But just sheer pace, I had nothing for him. I don't know. He seemed to be throwing it in the corners and using all different types of lanes, and it just kept going faster. I couldn't figure it out.
So with tonight, the points championship gets ever more intriguing. You gain points on Matt Wagner. Your thoughts on the season as a whole, coming in now and being in that conversation for the championship, keeping things close with Taylor, and potentially getting yourself nearly up to second, with depending on how you do next time out.
Yeah, I mean, it's just got to keep finishing races, top fives, stay up there. Obviously, both the Mats had a good race as well, so um, I just want to be there when we get to the finale and see what happens.
Thank you very much for your time, Joe.
Thank you.
That's Joe Branch coming away with the second place run tonight. Third spot tonight went the way of the number 88 machine. Tyler Graff jumps into car 88, immediately comes away with the podium. Tyler, that number worked magic tonight.
Yeah, it did. Maybe I have some things. Wait, no, I can't run 88 in IndyCar. Brophy's got that. But no, it was a good night. I'm kind of just hopping in. help out the team that Mark and I kind of run here, and with Fowler sitting out, figured I'd hop in and just get some more seat time and try and get that confidence up. It's been a rough ride in IndyCar lately, so I think any seat time is good seat time at this point.
I was about to ask, because of some of the shuffling there, in terms of how this played out, what were was that game plan entering tonight, knowing the scenario, and then how that reaction turned then when you qualified third from the get-go?
Well, I definitely didn't expect to qualify third. I was kind of mentally preparing for a mid, maybe 15th-ish start, and then having to kind of play the strategy or stay out, not pit, that kind of whole thing. But qualifying third kind of made it kind of simplified it a bit, and then it was just kind of just waiting. It really didn't seem like it was good at all to really wring the neck on the car at the restarts, because it just wasn't there at the end. So about 25 to 50% of the way through the run, we'd kind of start inching closer and closer to the guys ahead of us. But I'm happy that we got a good result for the team. At worst, I'm here just to help the team crawl our way back up the team championship.
So to understand correctly, for those watching, will you be making more starts in turn than the 88 the rest of the way?
That's the plan. If we've got a super busy week, I don't think we've got any like triple headers with IndyCar or Retro at all for the rest of the year. So as long as I'm not feeling any burnout, I'm running all three until the season ends, just to get some seat time and get as good as I can going in the next year, because the IndyCar is cutthroat right now, and my schedule doesn't really allow me to run a lot of the open stuff like they all do. So if there's a seat here to run, I'm going to take it and learn whatever I can.
Thank you very much for your time, Tyler. Congratulations to the podium, the first start of the season. That's Tyler Graff coming away with a third in the 88 machine. I'd like to thank him as well as Joe Branch, as well as Matt Taylor, for taking the time to speak with us during post-race coverage here on RaceSpot and ESTV. Andrew, your final thoughts after tonight here at New Hampshire, because while the cautions may have flown, one driver really flew away from the pack.
Yeah, Matt Taylor really had a dominating end to that race, didn't he? And Joe Branch even admitted he had nothing for him at the end there. It was Matt Taylor's race as soon as he got to the lead of the race, and he did so with authority. But I think the story here coming out of today is that the top three in points were part of the top four in the race. So it really started to solidify the top of the standings, and some of the others in the top 10 really had some struggles. Looking at Andrew Wood and Trevor Malone and Shane Coogan, this was not the type of race that they needed here. So we are starting to have a top three breaking away towards the second half of the season.
It's going to be intriguing, especially when the next stop comes into play on August the 22nd at Chicagoland Speedway, the other circuit in the conversation circles in that Chicagoland metropolis area. Plenty to talk about for when that stop comes up, but plenty to thank for tonight. First, let's take the time to thank the title sponsor of the Lionheart Speedway Series, Motor Racing. Motor Racing is revolutionizing sim racing with the development of industry-leading hardware and software products like their R9 direct drive wheelbase, the steering wheel. Featuring zero-delay wireless technology made from high-end materials, Motor Racing delivers the precision you need to reach victory lane. Tonight also brought to you by HyperX, as the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, thanks to premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable cloud-on gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. You're passionate about sim racing, but it always feels a little flat compared to the feeling of driving a real car. Now you can actually feel what it's like to drive a race car. Buttkicker haptic hardware and software are easy to install and let you feel every bump in the track, slip of your tire, and engine redline. Tactile feedback is so accurate and realistic, driving faster, having more fun than ever before. Next Level Racing is an industry-leading cockpit in-motion simulator manufacturer devoted to creating the most immersive experience possible for the sim racing community. Take your racing to the next level. Visit nextlevelracing.com. Gomez Sim Industries are makers of high-end esports equipment and controls, precision built using nothing but the best materials available today. Passionate handmade craftsmanship drive each made to order or build, creating a driving experience like no other. Visit GomezSimIndustries.com. Just those names, but so many more who are part of this action here at the Lionheart Racing Series Sanctioned Series. Find out more information at LionheartRacingSeries.com. But on that note, it's time to say goodbye. For tonight's producer, Connery Maddock, for my co-announcer and Andrew Kinsella, I'm Justin Prince saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your evening. You've been watching the HyperX New Hampshire 175 from iRacing's virtual New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Congratulations to Matt Taylor, your winner from the Magic Mile.